Chapter 1. The Black Sheep's Smile. You ever get that feeling you're the only one in the room who didn't get the memo? That's me, Margot Klein, 39 years old, and a proud underachiever in a family that treats Christmas cards like quarterly profit reports. The Kleins are the kind of clan who schedule their affection and invoice you for sentimentality. It was my father's 75th birthday. Klein Manor, yes, that's what they actually call it, looked like something out of an aspirational home magazine, all polished marble and tasteful gold accents. The house hummed with the sound of people who cared more about their net worth than their loved ones. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and my siblings clustered in small knots, trading stories of IPOs and weekend escapes to Aspen. There was no room for humility here. Humility was weakness, and weakness was, apparently, my calling card. I'd shown up with a smile I'd practiced in the rearview mirror. The kind of smile you put on when you know you're not just the black sheep, but the sheep everyone's planning to shear. My little brother, Theo, heir apparent family golden boy, had just bought his third condo in Miami and was waving his phone in the air, showing off views of the ocean to our relatives, each one more eager than the last to fawn over his success. My mother, oh my mother, caught me before I could slip out to the terrace with a glass of wine. "Margot, darling, did you ever think of finally settling down? You know, people your age." She let it hang, the way people do when they want you to fill in your own inadequacy. "I'm married, Mom," I said, the sarcasm lost on her as usual. "To my work. It's a complicated relationship." She pursed her lips as if I'd just confessed to shoplifting. My work was freelance illustration, not real art, as my father said, but doodling for money. I didn't bother correcting anyone anymore. Let them believe what they wanted. In a family where titles meant everything and consultant was code for got fired, I figured it was better to be underestimated. Less scrutiny that way. Dinner was the usual ballet of social jostling. My father's new wife, yes, new and yes, younger than Theo, fluttered around the table in designer silk, placing her manicured hand on his shoulder every time he coughed. My sister Lily, who'd built a boutique marketing firm from scratch, according to her anyway, sat across from me, feigning interest in my stories while checking her notifications. I watched the scene like an outsider at my own life. Every toast was a subtle dig, every compliment barbed, even the Margot, "You must be so happy freelancing. So much. Freedom," landed with the grace of a thrown brick. But here's the thing they never understood. Growing up in a family like mine, you develop a taste for being invisible. You learn to notice what others miss. The sideways glances, the cold calculations, the secrets sliding across the polished floorboards. And, unlike the rest, I didn't want their approval. Not anymore. What I wanted, I'd only recently started to admit to myself, I wanted revenge. See, what my family didn't know is that 3 months ago, I discovered a secret worth more than their entire combined fortunes. In the attic, buried beneath a pile of old journals, I found an envelope. No name, just a company letterhead, Klein and Voss Holdings. Inside were documents, a shadow trust, hidden overseas accounts, proof that my father had siphoned millions out of the family business, right under everyone's nose. And not just siphoned, he'd pinned the losses on me. For years, every failed venture, every suspicious shortfall, my name had been quietly attached as the reckless daughter with a gambling problem. I'd spent weeks piecing it all together. Bank statements, wire transfers, offshore entities, emails with coded language that even my lawyer friend called elegant fraud. I almost laughed the first time I realized how neatly the trap had been set. They'd spent decades training me to think I was an embarrassment. Meanwhile, I was the perfect scapegoat for my father's double life. But here's the punchline. I'm not the same Margot they remember. Life on the margins sharpens you. You learn how to disappear, how to listen, how to plan. And now, as the candles flickered on the birthday cake and my father beamed at the chorus of false adoration, I realized something beautiful. They thought I was still playing their game. They didn't know I'd brought my own deck of cards. Tonight, I'd begin my quiet little war. The first move, a single email, no accusations, just a scan of one damning document sent from an anonymous account addressed to the entire board of Klein and Voss Holdings. Let them sweat. Let them wonder. As I raised my glass for the inevitable toast, to family, I smiled a true smile, sharp as a blade. It was time they learned what a black sheep could really do. Chapter 2. The Family Tightrope. If you've never watched a family of predators circle the weakest animal at the watering hole, you've never been to a Klein family meeting. The day after my father's birthday bash, I got the text, urgent, 6 p.m. study. Short, cold, and exactly as welcoming as a summons from the IRS. By 5:30, I was in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel, practicing my best poker face. I already knew why they'd called me in. The board of Klein and Voss Holdings had received the anonymous email. Word travels fast among vultures, especially when the scent of blood comes from within their own flock. Inside, the house was quieter than usual, like everyone was holding their breath. My stepmother, Elise, perched on the stairs, eyes flicking up from her phone just long enough to glare at me. Her usual mask of serene detachment was gone. She looked rattled. Good, I thought. Maybe she finally sensed the ground shifting. The study was always Dad's domain. Walnut shelves, cigar smoke clinging to old books, that leather chair he'd imported from Milan because American craftsmanship has gone soft. I stepped in, and there they were, the inner circle. Dad at the desk, Theo and Lily flanking him like bodyguards. On the wall, a painting of my great-grandfather glowered down at us, a constant reminder of the dynasty we were supposed to protect. Dad didn't waste time. "Margot," he said, voice clipped, "sit." Funny how, even after everything, that tone still triggered something in me. A reflex from childhood when sit meant don't speak. But I wasn't a kid anymore. I sat, but I didn't shrink. He slid a printed copy of the email across the desk. "Care to explain?" I kept my voice neutral. "Looks like you've got a leak." Theo scoffed. "Don't play games, Margot. Why would someone send this to the board? What do they want?" I shrugged. "I'd guess they want accountability. Maybe a little justice." Lily leaned forward, fingers drumming. "If you know anything—" I cut her off. "If I knew anything, I'd be just as worried as you are." The silence crackled, tense as a live wire. My father's jaw worked, his eyes boring into me. "After all we've done for you—" Ah, the old refrain. I almost laughed. They still thought guilt was a leash they could yank. "Let's talk facts," Dad said, shuffling papers. "This so-called evidence is nothing but doctored documents. If anyone asks, you'll confirm that, Margot. Do you understand?" My mouth twisted in a half-smile. "And if I don't?" His face darkened. "Don't be foolish." The threat hung there, sour and familiar. I looked at each of them in turn. Theo, trying to look tough, but hands shaking. Lily, always calculating, now pale with worry. Elise outside, probably calling her lawyer already. They'd spent years perfecting the art of collective denial, closing ranks whenever trouble sniffed at their heels. And now that the wolf was inside the house, they still thought they could shut their eyes and make it vanish. I let the tension stretch. "I'll think about it," I said, standing up. Dad's voice stopped me. "You're a Klein, Margot. Act like it." I turned at the door. Maybe I finally am. On the drive home, adrenaline fizzed in my veins. Part of me wanted to throw up. The other part wanted to cheer. For once, they didn't have all the answers, and for once I held a piece they couldn't control. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the city lights flickering outside my window. The documents were spread out before me, a puzzle that had taken months to solve. Every wire transfer, every shell company, every lie laid bare. I knew my father would unleash the family lawyers next, painting me as unstable, vindictive, unreliable. I knew my siblings would close ranks, spinning their own stories. But I also knew something they didn't. I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. I called my old friend Ethan, the only person who'd stood by me when the rest of the world drifted away. "It started," I said. He didn't need details. "You sure you're ready?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm done hiding." He laughed. "About damn time, Margot." As I hung up, I thought about what came next. The Klein family had always walked a tightrope, pretending the ground was steady even as it crumbled beneath them. Now, for the first time, I was the one shaking the wire. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how the family's perfect mask started to slip. Chapter 3. Cracks in the Marble. Let me tell you something about families like mine. The more you push them, the more they polish their surfaces, pretending nothing's wrong while the cracks run deeper and deeper underneath. That week after the board's mysterious email, the Kleins put on a show worthy of Broadway. Family brunches became strategic summits. Text threads buzzed with updates on the situation, never specifics, just the right amount of vague panic to let you know the bomb was ticking. I kept my head down and played my part. Publicly, I was just Margot, freelancing my way through another quiet month. Privately, I was knee-deep in digital forensics, combing through encrypted archives on old USB sticks, taking notes in spiral-bound pads, and printing just enough evidence to fill a small, fireproof box under my bed. It felt like preparing for a trial no one else even knew had started, but I wasn't the only one playing detective. By Tuesday, a white envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address, no handwriting, just my name typed out, crisp and impersonal. Inside was a single sheet. "You're not the only one with secrets. A friend." Attached, a blurry printout of a bank transfer. My name on it dated 5 years ago, a six-figure sum I'd never seen before. It reeked of a setup. I sat for a long time at my kitchen table, the hum of my old fridge louder than usual. Someone in my family was warning me or threatening me. I thought of Dad's stony glare in the study, Theo's nervous glances, Lily's cold silence. Any of them could have sent it. All of them even. That night, I had trouble sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw signatures, wire routes, familiar handwriting twisted into forged confessions. I remembered being 24, scraping by on commission art gigs while the family made loans in my name, loans I never saw, debts I never owed. My father's favorite line, "You're lucky to have our support." All smoke and mirrors, it turned out, with my identity as the perfect shield. On Wednesday, things got stranger. I got a call from the Klein and Voss Holdings legal department, a woman named Nancy who sounded like she ate nails for breakfast. "We'd like to invite you for a routine audit, Margot. Standard protocol. Please bring all your financial records from the last 7 years." I nearly choked on my coffee. 7 years? That was enough time to bury a body and forget where you left it. "Of course," I said sweetly. "I'll have everything ready." When I hung up, I laughed. Audits in my family weren't about honesty. They were about control. This was the next step in their playbook. Overwhelm, confuse, and hope I'd fold under the pressure. I spent the afternoon at the library scanning documents, cross-referencing digital footprints, emailing Ethan with every new twist. I knew he'd keep my copies safe, just in case I needed a backup plan or an alibi. Thursday morning, I showed up for the audit at the downtown tower dressed in my best attempt at family respectable. Navy slacks, silk blouse, no-nonsense flats. Nancy was waiting in the glass-walled conference room, flanked by 2 stone-faced associates. She motioned for me to sit. "We just want to clear up a few questions about your personal finances, Ms. Klein. Routine, completely confidential." Routine, my ass. They grilled me for 3 hours. Every trip I'd taken, every freelance payment, every Venmo split for brunch. When I asked about the mysterious wire transfer, Nancy's eyes flickered. Strange. That must have been an error. We'll look into it. I smiled. Please do. By the time I left, my hands were shaking, but my head was clear. This wasn't about the truth. It was about seeing if I'd break. But I'd already spent a lifetime living with other people's lies. If they wanted a fight, I was ready. That night, I called my mother. Not for comfort, I'd learned better, but out of curiosity. Mom, did Dad ever mention any, big financial issues back in 2018? She was quiet then. He said you'd made some poor investments. That's why we had to cover some loans. There it was, the story, polished and ready for family legend. I thanked her, hung up, and made a note. The noose they'd been tightening around my neck for years was really a leash for their own crimes. Late that night, a new email arrived from the same anonymous account as before. You're getting close. Be careful. Some things are better left buried. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Was this a warning? A threat? Or maybe both? I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't backing down. The Klein family was finally starting to sweat, and I was just getting started. We're only halfway through, but trust me, the worst is still to come. Stay tuned to see how far they'll go to keep their secrets buried. Chapter 4. No going back. There's a moment in every family saga where you realize you can't turn around. For me, it hit one Thursday night as I stared at my reflection in the window. Dark eyes, hair pulled back, the city lights blurring behind me. I saw the girl who spent her life making herself smaller, shrinking from every confrontation. She was gone. In her place was someone I barely recognized, stubborn, hungry for answers, ready to bring the whole rotten edifice down if that's what it took. The anonymous emails hadn't stopped. If anything, they'd gotten bolder, taunting me with snippets of conversations I'd never been part of, photos of me leaving my apartment, even a voicemail from a disguised number. You're making a mistake. You don't know what you're dealing with. I played it back 3 times, heart hammering. Someone was close, closer than I wanted to believe. That Friday morning, I got a call from Ethan. Meet me at the old bakery on 3rd. Come alone. His voice was tense, so unlike him that I left immediately. The bakery had been our haunt in college, now abandoned, windows covered in peeling posters. He waited by the door, hands stuffed in his jacket. Inside, he slid a folder across the table. This came for you at my place, no return address. I opened it and my blood ran cold. Inside were color prints of my audit interview, annotated with red marker. She hesitated here. Notice her answer at timestamp 4123. On the back, a single line. You can't hide from us. My hands shook. They're following me, I whispered. Ethan nodded grimly. Someone wants you scared, and if they know I'm helping, I'm a target too. We spent an hour sifting through our notes, piecing together the pattern. Money moved through dead-end shell companies, always returning to the same 3 accounts. Accounts tied to my father, Theo, and, to my shock, Lily. I stared at the evidence. She always played the saint, I muttered, bitter. Turns out she's as dirty as the rest. Ethan gave a half smile. Now you know why they're getting desperate. But this, he tapped the folder, this is different. Whoever sent it has access to internal company surveillance. I went cold. It meant someone on the inside, not just family, but a loyalist. We had to act, fast. I decided to confront Lily first. She'd always been the coldest, the best at lying without blinking. I called her office, told her I needed to talk, and showed up with a shaky smile and my phone recording in my pocket. She was waiting, expression impassive. You look tired, Margot. Family stress? I didn't play along. I know about the shell companies, Lily, and about the money. How long did you think you'd get away with it? She actually laughed. You think you're the only one with secrets. You're a Klein, Margot. We do what we have to. My voice was low. Even if it destroys us all? She leaned in, voice ice cold. Better us than outsiders. There's still time to walk away. You can play the martyr, or you can survive. For a split second, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I saw the file on her desk, my name in bold across the cover. "What's that?" She didn't answer. I grabbed it before she could react. Dozens of pages, bank statements, photos, and a forged confession letter with my signature. "You're going to make me the fall guy," I whispered. Lily stood. "You brought this on yourself." I left her office shaking, rage and fear at war inside me. All my life I'd been cast as the weak link. Now I was about to take the full fall for their crimes. I wasn't running anymore. I called Ethan from a payphone, breath shallow. "They're framing me. I've got the evidence." "Get home," he said. "We'll scan everything, send it to the board and the press. If you go down, they go with you." Back at my apartment, I locked the door, double-checked the windows. It felt like the whole world was closing in. Ethan arrived with his battered laptop and a portable scanner. We worked in tense silence, uploading files, preparing statements, drafting emails. At midnight, the message went out. To the board, to regulators, to 2 major newspapers. Everything. Names, numbers, accounts, photos of Lily forging my signature, audio of her threats, enough to bury the Kleins for a generation. As we pressed send, I felt strangely calm. The fear was still there, but now it burned with clarity. This was it. There was no going back. At 2 a.m., a rock shattered my bedroom window. A note attached. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Police came, took a statement, shrugged. Could be a prank. But I knew better. I didn't sleep that night. But as dawn broke, painting the city gold, I realized I'd crossed a line. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I was fighting back. We're at the breaking point now. The mask is off and everyone's cards are on the table. But trust me, the biggest shock is yet to come. Don't look away now. Chapter 5. Family on Trial. When dawn broke over the city, painting my apartment in pale gold, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. My inbox was exploding. Responses from the board, journalists, even my father, whose message simply read, "What have you done?" There was no more hiding. The story was out. For the first time, my family's name was being whispered, not with admiration, but with suspicion and fear. I hadn't even changed out of my sweatshirt when the first knock came at the door. It was 2 men in suits, private investigators hired by the board, their badges flashing with the Klein family crest. "Ms. Klein, we need to ask you a few questions." Their voices were smooth, but their eyes were hunting for weakness. I invited them in, adrenaline spiking. "If you're looking for evidence, it's already been sent to the regulators and the press. You're a little late for a cover-up." One of them smiled tight. "We're not here for a cover-up. We're here to see if you're telling the truth." The other one flipped open a file with my photo clipped on top. "Why did you wait so long to come forward?" I didn't flinch. Because I was scared. Because I knew what my family was capable of. And because I needed proof. They nodded. Their questions kept circling. Where did the documents come from? How did I get them? Was anyone helping me? I stuck to the truth, or most of it. I left out Ethan's name. I had no idea how deep this would go, and I wasn't willing to risk his life just to make my own story sound better. After they left, the calls started. First the head of the audit committee, then a reporter from the Chronicle. "Ms. Klein, is it true? Did your sister forge your signature? What about the missing funds? Did your father know?" Each question felt like a knife, not because I didn't know the answers, but because I did. And because I knew this was only the beginning. Mid-morning, Ethan arrived, eyes red-rimmed, clutching a crumpled printout. "They're moving fast. The board's called an emergency meeting. They want you there. Today." I knew this was it. The trial. Not in a courtroom, but in front of the people who'd spent their lives believing the family name was unassailable. I dressed quickly, forcing myself into a simple black dress, hair tied tight, no makeup. I wanted them to see the real me, not the daughter or the scapegoat. The boardroom was packed, every seat taken, even the old wooden chair in the corner reserved for my grandfather. My father sat at the head of the table, flanked by Lily and Theo. Their faces were unreadable, masks they'd worn for years. but I could see the cracks now. Fear in Theo's tapping foot, rage simmering beneath Lily's icy gaze. The chairman called the meeting to order. "Margot Klein, you've made serious accusations against your own family. Do you understand the gravity of what you've done?" My hands didn't shake. "Yes, sir, and I stand by every word." He motioned for me to begin. I walked them through everything, how the shell companies worked, how the money moved, the forged documents. At every step, Lily and Theo tried to interject, but the board silenced them. For the first time, the Klein dynasty was not in control. Then came the confrontation. Lily stood abruptly, voice sharp. "This is a vendetta. Margot is unstable, jealous, desperate for attention." I met her eyes, cold. "If that's true, then explain these emails, these signatures. Explain why my name was forged. Explain why funds went missing the week after you threatened me in your office." The room fell silent. My father closed his eyes, shoulders sagging. For a moment, he looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice breaking. Lily looked away. The board began sifting through the evidence, page after page, account after account. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did the audio file I played of Lily's threats. The shock in the room was electric. It was as if the very foundation of our family had cracked open for all to see. But as the meeting drew to a close, the chairman leaned forward. "There is still the matter of Margot's involvement. Why did you wait so long to report this? And how do we know you weren't part of it?" A cold dread seized me. I realized too late. The forged confession was still in play, Lily's last act of sabotage. I slid the forged letter across the table. This was meant to be my noose, but the evidence shows who wrote it. Handwriting, timing, everything. Check the security logs. They nodded, unconvinced, the old doubts already resurfacing. The vote was called. Suspend Lily and Theo pending investigation. As for me, they would decide after reviewing all the evidence. I was free for now, but the shadow of suspicion remained. When I left the boardroom, the hall was silent. Ethan waited outside, his eyes searching my face for hope. I tried to smile. "It's not over," I said, "but I think the walls are finally closing in on them." He nodded, but as we walked out together, I saw something that chilled me. A man in a dark coat watching from the end of the corridor. He turned away before I could catch his eye. "Who was that?" I whispered. Ethan shook his head, uneasy. "Let's get out of here." But I knew what I'd seen. Someone else was watching. Someone not from the board, not from the press. Another player had entered the game, and their motives were a mystery. We're deep in the endgame now. The truth is out, but the danger has only just begun. Don't miss what comes next, because what happens in the shadows can change everything. Chapter 6, The Final Reckoning. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow on the wall seemed to stretch and shift, becoming someone else watching, listening. By sunrise, my apartment felt too small, too exposed. I left Marvin with Ethan and walked, phone off, mind racing. I kept replaying that moment in the hallway, the stranger in the coat. Who else was circling our family's fall? What else did I not know? By noon, my face was everywhere, online, in the papers, even on morning TV. Heiress turns whistleblower, Klein family implosion. My inbox overflowed with interview requests and angry, desperate messages from Lily and Theo. Board was silent, the investigation still grinding forward. I spent the day waiting, nerves frayed, until the call finally came. An emergency board meeting, this time with outside counsel and state investigators present. Ethan picked me up, tension humming between us. "You ready?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded, but truthfully, I was exhausted. Not just from lack of sleep, but from carrying the weight of secrets that had never belonged to me in the first place. When we arrived, the building was swarming with journalists and camera crews. The marble lobby echoed with shouted questions and the sharp click of camera shutters. "Ms. Klein, did you falsify the accounts? Were you coerced by your family? Are you testifying against your sister?" I pushed through the gauntlet, Ethan at my side and up to the boardroom. Inside, the atmosphere was funereal. Board members whispered, some avoiding my eyes. My father sat at the head of the table, his posture rigid, face ashen. Lily and Theo were there, flanked by their lawyers, masks of composure cracking under the weight of scrutiny. The chairman called the meeting to order, his voice grave. "Today," he said, "we close the investigation into the allegations brought against the Klein family. All evidence will be reviewed in the presence of legal counsel and state representatives. There will be consequences." He turned to me. "Ms. Klein, you will have the opportunity to make a final statement before the board votes." My throat was dry. I stood, feeling the eyes of the entire room. Family, rivals, press, even the stranger from the hallway now seated at the back, his face shadowed. I spoke not as a daughter or a scapegoat, but as a witness. "This isn't about revenge," I began. "It's about accountability. I loved my family. I still do. But I could no longer be complicit in the lies and theft that hurt so many, shareholders, employees, our community." My voice cracked. "I know I'm not blameless. I should have come forward sooner, but fear kept me silent." I paused, searching my father's face for a flicker of understanding. Instead, he looked away, hands shaking in his lap. Then Lily's lawyer spoke, grasping at the last scraps of plausible deniability. "There is no direct evidence that Ms. Klein's siblings orchestrated the fraud. The chain of custody is unclear. The confession could have been manufactured. But the state investigator produced the original files, the forensic report, and the security logs that tracked every forged signature and every suspicious transfer back to Lily and Theo. Even their lawyers fell silent. The board conferred. The vote was swift. Lily and Theo permanently removed from all company operations and referred for prosecution. My father, too, would step down. There would be a full restructuring, external auditors, and reparations for those defrauded. When the final verdict was read, the room was silent, but I felt the tectonic shift in the air. After the meeting, my father tried to speak to me, but I couldn't. Not yet. The pain was too fresh. The grief for a family that never truly existed, not the way I'd hoped. I left the building and found Ethan waiting by the fountain outside. He pulled me into an embrace, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. The press wanted a statement. I gave them one, brief and unsensational. "No one is above the truth, not even family. I hope our story reminds others to speak up, even when it costs everything." But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, I received a letter, unmarked, slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a single photograph, my family years ago, smiling on a California beach. On the back, in careful handwriting, "Truth hurts, but it heals. You did the right thing." A friend. I stared at that photo for a long time. I would never get back the years lost in silence or the naive love I'd felt for the people who had failed me. But I had something else now. The knowledge that I could survive the fire, that I was strong enough to face the shadows. Life didn't magically become simple. There were lawsuits, broken relationships, and a company to rebuild from the ashes. But through it all, I kept moving forward, step by trembling step. Some nights, I'd sit on the balcony with Marvin at my feet, the city below glowing in the dark, and I'd let myself hope. Not for the return of what was lost, but for something better, for the kind of legacy that isn't measured in fortunes or fame, but in honesty, courage, and the quiet conviction to do what is right, even when no one else will. If you ever feel trapped by family expectations, remember, sometimes saving yourself is the only way to save your name. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak the truth, no matter the cost.